And a Christian missionary asked Gandhi if independent India would have a state religion. Major question. What sort of future should there be in India? Should there be a state religion, or should there be equality for all religions? This is Gandhi's reply. If I were a dictator, religion and state would be separate. I swear by my religion. I will die for it. But it is my personal affair. The state has nothing to do with it. The state would look after your secular welfare, health, communications, foreign relations, currency, and so on, but not your or my religion. That is everybody's personal concern. Another idea of how he tried to deal with the situation in the country. Now we are at a time when there is Hindu-Muslim tension. India and Pakistan are to be created. There is violence, there is fear, there is anger. This is what Gandhi says to a crowd of people at his multi-faith public prayer meeting. But by this time, what he says is also being broadcast on the radio, so a great many people listen to this. So this is the atmosphere of violence and fear. And Gandhi says, I have just a handful of bones in my body, but my heart belongs to me. So do your hearts belong to you. And again, around this time, there is the question of who should be the first president of India. Yes, India would have a parliamentary democracy. Real political power would be with the Prime Minister, and by now it was quite clear that Jawaharlal Nehru would be the Prime Minister. And this is Gandhi's remark in June of 47, just a month and a half before India becomes independent, about who should be the president, first president of India. If I have my way, the President of the Indian Republic will be a chaste and brave Bhangi girl. Bhangi is the scavenger caste among the untouchables, the lowest among the untouchables. So Gandhi wants the first Indian president to be not only the lowest among the untouchables, but a young woman. Is this relevant today? If an English girl of 17 could become the British Queen, he's talking about Victoria. Remember, Gandhi was a Victorian, he was in the Victorian age. If an English girl of 17 could become the British Queen and later even Empress of India, there's no reason why a Bhangi girl of robust love of her people and unimpeachable integrity of character should not become the first president of the Indian Republic. By electing an untouchable girl to that office, we shall show to the world that in India there is no one high and no one low. She should be chaste as Sita, and her eyes should radiate light. We shall all salute her and set a new example before the world. So this too is the way Gandhi is, you might say, challenging public opinion. And I think finally, because I should give you all time for a discussion, a comment on how he dealt with his great rival. Who was his biggest rival?
Himself.
That's a great answer. The whole book is about that rivalry. But another rival, okay, next to the greatest rival, who did he have?
Jinnah.
Okay, that's one opinion. Any other opinions?
Bose.
Bose, that's another opinion. Winston Churchill, who said that? Absolutely right. I don't know whether awards are offered by this club, but Winston Churchill was his greatest rival. And they met only once, in 1906, when Gandhi left South Africa to go to England to fight for the rights of the Indians in South Africa. Churchill then was in the Liberal Party. He was the Under Secretary or Assistant Secretary for the Colonies in Gandhi, and Churchill had a fairly good meeting. After that, when Gandhi became more determined to fight for not only Indian rights in South Africa, but India's independence, Churchill didn't like it, and the Great Salt March infuriated Churchill, and the fact that the Viceroy invited Gandhi to talk with him, that's when Churchill made this statement that many Indians know. That something like, it is alarming and also nauseating to find this half-naked man walking up the steps of the Viceroy's palace to parley on equal terms with the representative of the King Emperor. Well, some months after that, Gandhi went not only to parley with the Viceroy, but to talk with the King of England and with the cabinet ministers in London. He was there for talks, and he asked to meet Churchill, but Churchill said, no, I'm not going to meet you. And then Churchill was unhappy at the idea of India's independence. He was very happy with the idea of India's partition. And he however, opposed the independence very, very strongly. And then when Hindu-Muslim killings took place, Churchill felt that he had been absolutely vindicated. And in September of 47, a month and 12 days after India became independent, this is what Churchill said. By this time, August, September 47 is the months that saw the worst killings, both in India, and Pakistan has also been created, both in India and in Pakistan. And by some kind of incredible parity, divine parity, devilish parity, almost the same number of Muslims and non-Muslims were killed at that time. But this is what Churchill said. 27 September 1947, speaking in London. The fearful massacres which are occurring in India are no surprise to me. We are, of course, only at the beginning of these horrors and butcheries perpetrated upon one another with the ferocity of cannibals by the races gifted with capacities for the highest culture, and who had for generations dwelt side by side in general peace under the broad, tolerant, and impartial rule of the British Crown. I cannot but doubt that the future will witness a vast abridgment of the subcontinent's population, one of Churchill's predictions that went wrong. Future will witness a vast abridgment of the subcontinent's population. To these formidable phrases from his old foe, Gandhi offered an immediate but also impressive response. The first thing Gandhi does is he translates Churchill's remarks to his prayer audience, and by now you might say, as you know, to a very large audience in India. He wants them to know what Churchill has said. After translating Churchill's sentences for his prayer meeting audience, he called the former premier a great man, acknowledged that there was no doubt that Churchill, these are his words, who took the helm when Great Britain was in great danger, had saved the British Empire in World War II, and he admitted that a few 100,000 in India had indeed taken to the path of barbarism. At the same time, he took Churchill to task for describing the killings in India with, as Gandhi put it, such relish and gross exaggeration. And he asked Churchill to take the trouble of thinking about Britain's responsibility in the tragedy. Though not referring to Churchill's personal wish for India's partition, Gandhi added that by dividing India before quitting, Britain had unwittingly invited the two parts of the country to fight each other, a step, quote, the future may or may not justify, unquote. He concluded by saying to his people, many of you have given grounds to Mr. Churchill for making such remarks. You still have sufficient time to prove Mr. Churchill's prediction wrong.